Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bioinformatics webinar, Loyalty Unveiled, Navigating Customer Preferences for Nucleic Acid Extraction Kits. I'm Keely Trull, Senior Marketing Manager for Science and Medicine Group. And before we get started, I wanted to just cover a few housekeeping items. First, if you experience any issues throughout the broadcast, please feel free to put those in the chat and I'll do my best to help you fix them. Second, this presentation will be available on demand after the webinar has concluded. An email will be sent to you with information on how to access that. Third, we will be taking time to answer questions at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to submit your questions to the Q&A at any time throughout the presentation. We'll get to as many of those as we can today. Leading us in today's discussion is Danny Wu. Danny is the Manager of Scientific Advisory Services at Bioinformatics. Danny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Keely, and thank you everyone for attending. In today's webinar, we'll be diving a little deeper into one of our most recent publications centered around customer loyalty and switching, particularly within the space for nucleic acid extraction kits. So mostly we're going to be focusing on the high-level insights from this title, but to just give a brief overview of our key objectives and who qualified for the study. The study was initiated to explore what drives purchasing behavior in the nucleic acid extraction market. Specific objectives include understanding the familiarity with nucleic acid extraction kit suppliers and likelihood to recommend, measure loyalty to suppliers and reasons for loyalty, gauge their likelihood to switch suppliers and what factors drive switching, and finally, understand how suppliers are performing against leaders in the market. So benchmarking their performance across a variety of perception points, but also loyalty metrics. In order to achieve these objectives, we designed a quantitative online survey that contained 35 questions, including demographics, which took about a median time of 12 minutes to complete. This survey was fielded to 264 respondents, primarily members of the Science Advisory Board, our proprietary panel, which is composed of members of the scientific community who have demonstrated willingness to participate in market research activities. In order to qualify for this study, respondents had to indicate that they worked in academia or pharma biotech segments within the life sciences industry within North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. They must currently use nucleic acid extraction kits and also be involved in purchase decisions for these products. A summary of the select highlights of these results is presented in today's webinar, and the full report is available on our website as well as the Science and Medicine Group Knowledge Center. So just to briefly talk about who comprised the sample, we had 264 respondents from around the world. 40% were from North America, primarily the United States. 36% came from Europe, with a smattering of countries including Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, Spain, etc. And then the remaining quarter respondents are from Asia Pacific, primarily China, Japan, and India. We had an even split between academics and pharma biotech respondents. Within academia, the majority indicated that their organization type is an academic center or university, although there were participants from research institutes and university medical centers and government labs. Within the pharma biotech cohort, 32% of respondents indicated that their organization is a biopharma, biotech company. Then pharmaceutical companies, research institutes, and contract organizations were also represented in the sample. When asked about their involvement in purchase decisions, 50% of respondents indicated that they were the primary decision maker in their lab, while the remaining 50% were involved in the process, whether they were directly involved or just simply end users who made product recommendations. We had a variety of job titles that were represented, including PIs, lab manager, directors, scientists, professors, department heads, etc. So we just wanted to share a few high-level takeaways from the report before diving into the survey data. What we found was that overall perceptions of nucleic acid extraction kit suppliers are positive. And this is emphasized by NPS and consideration metrics. Consideration for future purchases of these kits were strong industry-wide. Even though QIAGEN was a clear market leader across most of the metrics evaluated in the study, many other suppliers had strong performances as well. On average, respondents currently use 4 to 5 suppliers for nucleic acid extraction kits and expect their spending on these kits to increase slightly by 0.8% over the next 5 years. Over 30% of respondents currently use QIAGEN, Thermo Fisher, Promega, MilliporeSigma, Merck, Bio-Rad, and Agilent. I do want to mention that this usage is not a reflection of market share, as the study was not intended to gauge estimated spend per supplier, but purely current purchasing behavior. Customers of individual suppliers indicate that they frequently purchase or consider other products from their suppliers, suggesting high cross-selling potential. This cross-selling potential can be leveraged by large suppliers that have broad life science portfolio to generate sales of other products and services as well. So what drives loyalty? Unsurprisingly, product quality is incredibly important. Unfortunately, customers perceive all kits to be high quality, although there are some variations across suppliers. In general, QIAGEN has a strong foothold in quality despite a premium price. Other suppliers such as Zymo, Thermo Fisher, Promega, and Roche are above the industry average in terms of kit quality. But like I said, overall perceptions are neutral or slightly above neutral here. Meanwhile, prices are perceived as slightly high for most suppliers, but customers are willing to pay a premium and willing to purchase kits at current prices. But this idea of premium and value may fluctuate from supplier to supplier. Overall, repurchase likelihood declines with price increases. That's to be expected, but that drop varies again from supplier to supplier. So there are 2 themes that we looked into within the full report. First, the idea of how to retain your customers, how to promote loyalty, and also how to attract new customers and encourage switching to your brand. In terms of retaining customers, purchasing momentum is incredibly important. Historic purchases can drive continuous sales, whether they're built into current SOPs or just comfort of using a supplier again and again and having that consistency and reliability. So QIAGEN, Thermo Fisher, and Promega really stood out at excelling at retaining long-term customers. Meanwhile, what we found was that 17% of respondents did try new customers within the try new suppliers within the last 3 years, indicating there is a willingness to switch. They currently use 4 to 5 suppliers. Perhaps they'll switch to your brand. In terms of purchase drivers, product quality, brand consistency, and brand trustworthiness are the primary drivers, but customer service and innovation can really differentiate a supplier as to retain their current customer base. Meanwhile, for switching, past switching was driven by new projects and applications and inventory delays. So when a researcher is starting a new experimental protocol or looking into the literature, that's an opportunity to leverage. Inventory delays was very prevalent over the past 3 years, and having your products in stock can also encourage potential customers to switch to your brand. However, barriers to switching include kit uncertainty, risk of inconsistent results, challenges of protocol optimization, and compatibility with automation. And so in order to encourage switching, these barriers must be addressed, and our recommendations are available in the full report. So let's dive into some of the highlights from this study. looking at current workflows for nucleic acid extraction, what we found was that 95% of respondents use manual protocols in their lab. Nearly half of these respondents also use automation. So 54% of respondents indicate that they integrate automation for this extraction step. Automation usage is much more prevalent within the pharma biotech segment relative to academics, so 69% versus 39% respectively. In terms of downstream applications with the isolated nucleic acids, PCR, qPCR, NGS, and cloning are the top applications, unsurprisingly. There are a few differences that we noticed when segmenting these results by automation usage. So cloning is performed by 71% of respondents who extract nucleic acids manually. It's a simple step, and they can perform it after the isolation. But respondents who automate nucleic acid extraction are more likely to perform droplet digital PCR and mass spec. So we looked at over 20 suppliers in this study, and we've broken it out by top 10 suppliers based purely on current usage, as well as the other suppliers, to look at these suppliers more holistically. On average, respondents currently use 4 to 5 suppliers for their nucleic acid extraction kits. Over 50% of respondents currently use QIAGEN and Thermo Fisher, although there is strong presence for all of these suppliers here, including Promega, Millipore Sigma, Bio-Rad, Agilent, NEB, Roche, etc. What we see here in the dark blue is current usage, and the pale blue is previous usage, indicating this percentage of respondents had previously purchased from that supplier for nucleic acid extraction kits, but may have switched away. So all suppliers have lost customers, and over 20% of respondents have previously purchased kits from Promega, Bio-Rad, and Roche, but no longer purchase these kits. What we also saw is that there are a large variety of different types of kits that are commonly used across all suppliers. We're not going to look into that data today, but in general, total DNA, genomic DNA, and plasmid DNA kits are commonly used across all suppliers, but some of these suppliers are able to differentiate themselves within some of the more specialized kits. In addition, cross-selling is important, as I mentioned before. On average, 61% of customers indicated that they also purchased other product types from their current suppliers of nucleic acid extraction kits. So we looked at broad perceptions of individual suppliers across 4 key points. The breadth of their nucleic acid kit portfolio, the breadth of their overall life science product portfolio, quality of their kits, and the price of their kits. And what we found is that perceptions of suppliers offering nucleic acid extraction kits are slightly better than neutral. So they're overall a little bit positive. So 50 is that midpoint between broad to narrow or high to low. And in general, the majority of suppliers performed slightly above that center mark. This is just a snapshot of the performance of all of the suppliers within this perception range. So here on the x-axis, we looked at the breadth of the nucleic acid extraction kit portfolio and compared it to the breadth of their total life science product portfolio on the y-axis, and try to identify how suppliers perform. And as you can see, there's a break here, as here's actually mostly neutral perceptions, but when we want to look at performance, we really want to better understand how suppliers are performing relative to one another. In general, QIAGEN and Thermo Fisher are perceived as suppliers offering broad solutions. And these perceptions are led by researchers using their products. Interestingly, Zymer Research here is perceived as a specialized supplier for nucleic acid extraction kits, as their response indicate that they view they had a broad nucleic acid kit portfolio, but also a relatively narrow life science product portfolio overall. And we deep dive into this in the full report as well. Looking at quality and price here on the x-axis, it goes from low quality to high quality, and on the y-axis, we looked at the idea of value and perceptions of price of these nucleic acid extraction kits from low to high price. Once again, QIAGEN appears to be the market leader. They have a strong foothold in quality despite higher than average perception and price, indicating that respondents are willing to pay that premium for their products. But here in the navy blue on both the slide and the previous slide, that's where the industry average is, and we do see a sprinkling of suppliers that are perceived across the spectrum. We used a variety of metrics to evaluate customer loyalty, including Net Promoter Score, consideration of individual suppliers for future purchases of these kits, repurchase likelihood at current prices, and repurchase likelihood at prices when they're increased by 5% and 10%. Many of these metrics are intertwined together to reflect how loyal a customer is. For today, we're going to deep dive into NPS, and here we'll show it for all 20 suppliers. It's a classic metric. How likely are you to recommend this supplier to a colleague? And respondents were able to evaluate this on an 11-point scale for each individual supplier. At the top is the industry average on the response level, and the industry average has an NPS of about 9. So we have here on this slide 4 suppliers that are surpassing the industry average, which are QIAGEN, Promega, Thermo Fisher, and Zymo Research. Meanwhile, NEB has a neutral score, and then some of these other suppliers have negative scores. Although there are a fair share of promoters, there's also a fair share of detractors. Looking at the other suppliers, Decode Bio also has a strong NPS score of 23.7, but many of these other suppliers within this space do have negative suppliers due to the large portion of detractors. We do want to mention that some of the usage for some of these suppliers is on the lower end, so we would recommend interpreting these results with caution when sample sizes are below 30. So these metrics extended to loyalty perceptions, where respondents generally believe that they are at least somewhat loyal to their current suppliers. Here, they were able to indicate how loyal they consider themselves to each individual supplier on a spider scale, and loyalty was defined as firm in support and unlikely to consider other brands. And so the industry average is slightly above neutral, and here's just a zoomed in version, with QIAGEN and Thermo Fisher really standing out in that loyalty perception here. So here, losing customers may be a risk for many suppliers. The opportunity to gain customers also exists. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. What's driving this loyalty? Well, product quality, consistency, and trustworthiness are the critical factors that drive loyalty to individual suppliers. Lack of negative experiences, innovation, and excellent customer service could also be differentiators, but they're more secondary considerations then as well. So suppliers in general just need to prove themselves within these measures. So they must demonstrate that the products are high quality, can consistently lead to pure isolation of nucleic acids with high yields, and that they can consistently perform. And we also looked at this on a supplier level basis. Here we're just showing QIAGEN and Thermo Fisher as there are some differences of what drives them. So QIAGEN is really known for its high quality products, and Thermo Fisher here is about brand consistency. But as we looked at individual suppliers, we did notice that providing excellent customer service and minimal negative experiences can make certain suppliers stand out. So drivers of loyalty do vary from supplier to supplier. We also tried to understand overall brand affinity, to what extent they agreed or disagree with these statements here, whether they trusted a brand, whether they wanted to purchase from a brand versus they purchased from a brand out of necessity, whether a brand is deserving of their loyalty, and whether they feel that connection and love the brand. So here is a reflection of industry averages, although the question was asked on a supplier level basis. And what we found was that trust outpaces loyalty and affinity, indicating that suppliers are great at building that trust with their customers, but they're not necessarily connecting with them. And so continuing to establish this trust and this connection will be key in retaining customers, but other suppliers can truly try to induce switching by offering options that are currently not available on the market or differentiating themselves. So we're going to talk about what they can do to encourage switching and what potential barriers to switching are. So 70% of respondents indicated that they tried new suppliers within the last 3 years. 14% within the last year, but the majority within the last 1 to 2 years, and then 2 to 3 years. And there were a few reasons that influenced their decision to try a new supplier. Most commonly, a new project or new application led to them switching and at least evaluating a new supplier, the pursuit of a better price increases from their current suppliers, pursuit of a better performance, and just long lead times or stockouts and inventory delays. However, there are significant barriers to switching, and here we're just gauging the difficulty and what's causing this difficulty. 40% of respondents indicate that it is at least somewhat difficult to switch to a new supplier. And the reason that it can be difficult is there's just uncertainty about the quality of alternative kits on the market. There's a risk of inconsistent results. There takes time and effort to optimize a new protocol. And what that's cost of trial and optimization. And then for respondents who are using automation, compatibility with the instruments and automated protocols within their lab is also an important consideration. And so in order to encourage the switching, suppliers really need to focus on these issues. And we also dig a little bit deeper within the final report. So I know that was a bit quick. I think we had 30 minutes allotted for today to just talk through the high-level insights from this title, but I hope you learned a little bit more about the drivers of customer loyalty in switching in nucleic acid extraction kits. I think we can pause for questions.
So at this time, we're going to jump into the Q&A. If you haven't already, go ahead and please put your questions for Danny in the chat. We'll get to as many of those as we can. If for whatever reason we don't get to your question, we'll follow up with you after the webinar has ended. So at this time, go ahead and feel free to put those questions in the chat. As we're waiting for questions to come in, I did want to mention, as Danny previously said, so today's discussion referenced some high-level findings from Bioinformatics' recently published report, 2023 Customer Loyalty and Switching, Nucleic Acid Extraction Kits. We have included a link to the report in the chat, so we do encourage you to take a look and learn more about what's included in that report. Haven't had anything come in so far, so just another FYI note for everyone. A PDF of the slides from today's webinar can be found in the handouts section of your control panel. So if you are interested in downloading all the slides that Danny showed today, you can access those there as well. Great, we'll give it just one more minute to wait for any questions to come in if anyone has any. Danny, it looks like we're good on questions. So I know you had a couple more slides if you want to show those to our audience quickly as well.
Sure. Thanks, Keely. So I think these slides will be included with the handout that Keely will share after this webinar. But we do have a slide that is about our company, and we offer full service custom market research and also some of our other titles. Recently, we published a few titles about frontiers and cutting edge trends in synthetic biology, perceptions of AI, as well as perceptions of environmental sustainability in the life sciences. We also have 2 new titles on deck that will be published before the end of the year that have Tableau workbooks included to just better understand the customer experience as well as purchasing journey.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So if anyone does have any follow-up questions, you can email us at info@bioinfoinc.com. I'll keep this webinar line open for a few minutes, so anyone who does want to download the slides from the handout section or grab the link to that report, you'll have time to do so. Thank you all so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Danny.
Thanks, everyone.